When he was transported to another world, he found himself alone with the beauty that seduced him, but just when he thought that he was in paradise, a cruel blow fell on him. It turned out that the original owner of the body he was reborn into was a womanizer. And when despair hit him like a heavy wave, fate threw him a gift. He thought he had a great future ahead of him, but then she appeared. Having met such a beautiful girl who turned out to be his wife, he decided to woo her so that it would not become the best son-in-law of all time. Lincoln City. Shu Wushao entered the room and asked the girl what was going on here. The beautiful Lin Qingxi enticingly offered to approach her and sarcastically congratulated her on something. Shu Wushao thought about what was happening. How did this happen in the first place? Immediately, a loud sound caused the beauty and the guy to cry out. The man who burst into the room told Shu Wushao that he had finally found him, his son-in-law. The guy asked his son-in-law how he dared to cheat on his wife and defame her name. Shu Wushao asked the stranger in surprise if he was his brother-in-law. After all, he was single, and when he managed to get married. My brother-in-law shouted on Shu Wushao to be cursed, and how dare he go to bed with another woman on the night of his wedding. The guy just managed to say that he didn't understand anything. The brother-in-law shouted at the guy that he didn't need such a son-in-law in his family and called him a bastard. Shu Wushao tried to reply that it wasn't as he thought. People on the street started asking who was the guy who landed on top of the ground with a loud bang. Shu Wushao said, coming to his senses, "What the hell is going on?" People passing by began to discuss that it was Shu Wushao, the guy who, on his wedding night, had climbed and go to bed with someone else. Some scoffed that he was idle all day long, didn't have any skills, was insignificant in the Dao, and was generally a complete trash. And if he'd stuck to the prenuptial agreement, he'd be content with dinner right now. Shu Wushao wondered what he should do in this situation. The sharp pain made the guy say that something was wrong with his head. Shu Wushao said in a low voice, "Why is his head hurting so much?" The boy cautiously said that it seemed to him that he was at the bottom of a huge bowl and how this was even possible. An unfamiliar voice told Shu Wushao that he was a stupid boy. Shu Wushao shouted that it was really a huge giant talking to him and asked him not to eat it. The guy told the stranger that he hadn't bathed in a month and never wiped his ass in the toilet, so it would be dangerous to eat it. The huge old man said that he had used this special bowl for his rebirth and had planned it for 1,000 years. The old man told Shu Wushao that he needed to use this advantage. Shu Wushao shouted at the huge old man not to dare approach him. The strange old man told Shu Wushao to stop talking nonsense because his ghostly soul was already disappearing fast and it was worth listening carefully. The old man said that in the first place, this rebirth cup can collapse at any time, but as long as it receives food from the owner, the cup will start to recover. Second, the liquid energy will flow back during the reincarnation process. Third, liquid energy feedback is ideal for training anybody. Fourth, the rebirth cup can nourish and restore the soul of its owner. Fifth, Shu Wushao can learn Tao and master the secrets of martial arts with ease. Tired of being patient, Shu Wushao said that sixth, the old man should move his foot away from his face, and didn't he know how much it stank? The old man angrily replied that he was teaching the guy a lot right now, and how dare he do this to him. The old man told the guy that he was just a disgrace to his family, bullying his master and shaming his ancestors. Shu Wushao told the old man what he was talking about and when he was able to become his disciple. The old master replied that the guy was a fucking brat and should know what was being said to him right now. The old master pondered and decided that his time had come. Shu Wushao asked the old man what was going on with him right now. The old master replied that it was something he had done in his life that was important and valuable, a silent sword and medical advice on yin and yang. The old man told Shu Wushao that he would soon disappear and hoped that he would pass on his knowledge further to his follower. Shu Wushao asked what this silent sword and yin-yang medicine was and thought that it sounded really powerful. Shu Wushao exclaimed, "What a terrible stench comes from these scrolls." The old master replied that he apologizes for this, as he has been using the scrolls as a soul for a very long time. Xu Wuzhao said, "What kind of cursed old man is this? And he's definitely as poisonous as a pale toadstool." After coming to his senses, Xu Wuzhao wondered if it was just a stupid dream right now, even though it looked pretty real. But after a moment, Xu Wuzhao thought that these two scrolls were actually in his head, and he could actually feel them. Xu Wuzhao loudly exclaimed to everyone around him that they had just looked down on the main character, but now he would take full revenge on all of them, and they'll find out who he really is. People began to tell each other that Xu Wuzhao was definitely crazy and that he was a real disgrace to Lincoln City. Therefore, you should not play with it, but just go away and ignore it. Xu Wuzhao thought that the previous owner's character must have already sunk into his bones, which was why there was such a reaction to everyone around him. It occurred to the owner of the new body that he really did not care about everything that was happening, and first he should eat properly, and only then go take revenge on all his abusers. Xu Wuzhao looked at the huge signboard and was surprised, thinking that it said Emperor's Hall. Xu Wuzhao thought that the Imperial Eel Hall was quite a good name for an establishment and decided that it was worth visiting this place and finding out what was interesting there. The girls turned to Xu Wuzhao and asked him if he would like to have fun in their company while calling the guy the owner. One of the beauties told Xu Wuzhao that he hadn't been to this place in a very long time and they missed it. The girl told the guy that she had heard that he was going to get married tonight and suggested that why not come to them after the wedding and have fun in their company as soon as he was free. Xu Wuzhao wondered what exactly this was about and realized that he was well known here. The guy decided that the Imperial Eel Hall is a real abode of beautiful women who want to play with their visitors, and no one really cares about his feelings here. The sumptuous owner of the establishment turned to Xu Wuzhao and said that he had not been here for a very long time and suggested that he go inside as soon as possible. Xu Wuzhao tried to object and said that he didn't want to go with them at all, but the girls said they didn't want to hear about it and would carry him inside in their arms. Xu Wuzhao began to speak a resident of the establishment so that they immediately let him go and put him on the ground. Once inside and seeing the vast array of dishes, Xu Wuzhao decided that it wasn't important yet and that he needed to fill his stomach first, as he was feeling an overwhelming hunger. One of the girls asked Xu Wuzhao not to eat so much now, but rather go and have fun with them on the spacious bed. The second girl informed Xu Wuzhao that she found out that someone had recently invented a new trick in bed and suggested that the guy immediately try it with her, as she was incredibly bored by his company. As Xu Wuzhao ate, he thought that he didn't come here to mess around with these girls. If they found out about it, that he doesn't need all this because he doesn't want to allow what happened last time. Suddenly, a shout was heard and a voice told Xu Wuzhao to get out of the place immediately. Eyewitnesses began to discuss who it was that was making a fuss in the Eel Imperial Hall again. People started saying that it was probably because of the guy inside the brothel who was Xu Wuzhao. Inside the Eel Emperor Hall, panic set in and the girls began to shout that they were very scared and beg for help. Xu Wuzhao thought that what was happening wasn't good at all and that it was a very lassie situation that didn't bode well. The guy who broke into the brothel told Xu Wuzhao that he was a real bastard with swollen balls and was going to pay for everything. Xu Wuzhao, seeing the guy's mood, decided that he should stay calm, and it seems that Yang Weilin came for him, stuck under the numbo in the city. The residents of the Eel Imperial Hall began to discuss what was happening, saying that Xu Wuzhao was truly shameless to do such a thing. If Qin Sali's father-in-law didn't protect him, he would have died long ago. If Yang Weilin had killed Xu Wuzhao, he would have been considered a murderer in Lincoln City. Yang Weilin yelled at Xu Wuzhao that he was going to die and kill him. Xu Wuzhao told the assailant why he was so ruthless, since they had just met, and he already wanted him dead for some unknown reason. As soon as Xu Wuzhao reacted, he thought in horror that he was very close to losing his manhood. Xu Wuzhao told Yang Weilin that maybe they should discuss it peacefully now and not get so excited over nothing at all. Yang Weilin told the boy that they would talk later when they met in hell. Xu Wuzhao thought in despair, is it really so stupid now and his fun life will end? Yang Weilin thought that he would immediately kill Xu Wuzhao and then Lin Qingxi would be his forever. Yan Weilin exclaimed, "What's going on here?" and had time to wonder where his blade might have gone, as if it had disappeared in a few seconds. The moment is like a mirage. Xu Wushao was surprised by the suddenness of the moment and thought that a real breakthrough of Kai energy had just occurred. Xu Wushao immediately realized that the immortal elder hadn't lied to him back then when they met, and he could actually absorb metal to power the rebirth cup and improve his skills. This discovery surprised Xu Wushao, and he thought that it was all just unbelievable and worth taking advantage of this opportunity in the future. Yan Weiling shouted at Xu Wushao, "Where did the scoundrel put his sword?" Xu Wushao told his assailant to go to hell and ask at his fist where his sword had disappeared. Yan Weilin only managed to reply to the guy that he allowed himself. Xu Wushao told Yan Weilin that he had attacked the wrong person and that it was wrong to bully him like that. Xu Wushao promised that he would now fill Yan Weilin's face until it was the color of a red ripe peach. Xu Wushao said that he would do it for Yan Weilin and Lin Qingxing teaming up to frame him. Xu Wushao's next punch was dedicated to Yan Weilin for simply being a freak and annoying him with his vile shouting. Yan Weilin hissed back that he had never expected such a rebuff from Xu Wushao. Yan Weilin asked the guy that how he was able to make a sneak attack against him. Xu Wushao replied to Yan Weilin that Lu Xun once said that the winner is the king, and who cares about the process of becoming a king? Yan Weilin could only croak out that who exactly was this Lu Xun that Xu Wushao was talking about, but the next moment he was silenced by another blow and died quietly lying on the road. The residents of the city who witnessed the incident thought that it was all unbelievable, and since when did Xu Wushao become so strong? Xu Wushao thought that it was a good thing that he was able to defeat Yan Weilin with his Kai energy. Xu Wushao laughed and said that he was finally able to strike back and take revenge on Yan Weilin. The voice spoke to Xu Wushao and asked him to wait. Xu Wushao pondered and remembered that this voice belonged to his father-in-law Qin Sili. Xu Wushao tried to tell his father-in-law that he had misunderstood everything about what was happening here. Qin Sili told Xu Wushao that did he still remember that he was his father-in-law? The people around him taunted Xu Wushao, saying that that was all and his son would be son. The King family is one of the 3 most influential families in Lingen City. It wasn't clear that if the family didn't have some sort of contract that would justify this marriage, then how could they give their daughter to a jerk like this Xu Wushao? And now this happened, what a pity, Xu Wushao went to a brothel right on his wedding day. And apparently, they really made a mistake in choosing their future son-in-law. Xu Wushao said to his father-in-law, Qin Sili wondered if he could only explain his presence in the brothel to the excellent menu of the place, then would he believe him in such a case? Qin Sili's father-in-law exclaimed to Xu Wushao's son-in-law that it was the stupidest excuse he had ever heard to come to a brothel just to eat. Qin Sili's father-in-law asked Xu Wushao if he thought he didn't know what this place was. Qin Sili explained to his son-in-law that he had been to brothels and knew exactly what they were and why they went there. Qin Sili paused and thought that he had just said too much about his life. Xu Wushao asked Qin Sili's father-in-law, what is it really it's true what he said about his visits to the brothel? Qin Sili's father-in-law exclaimed to Xu Wushao to stop talking nonsense, because of him, their Qin family would lose all their reputation. Qin Sili thought that this little bastard Xu Wushao was trying to expose his old weaknesses. Residents began to discuss Qin Sili, saying that it turns out that the patriarch of the Qin family also trades in such intimate affairs. Someone in the crowd suggested that perhaps it was only in his youth that he worked like this. But someone reminded me that the patriarch of the Qin family, Qin Sili, used to have a nickname Tough Brother, and in the common people he was generally called Whirlwind in bed. Qin Sili, hearing the chatter, wondered how the hell the herd could possibly know such information about him. People began to whisper admiringly and tell each other to get out of the way and let the girl pass. Xu Wushao froze in surprise, thinking that this was Qin Qingme and she was his precious wife. Xu Wushao blamed himself for what was wrong with him, because his wife was beautiful, and why he chose to sleep with a prostitute instead of a beautiful wife. Qin Qingmo thought that this was going to be a good show for her, even though Xu Wushao wouldn't have to lie to her this time. After all, there was no need to do so, since Xu Wushao hadn't slept with another woman, so there was no need for him to ask her for forgiveness. Yu Feng said that he was willing to bet that they would get married this time, or else he would be willing to eat poop, since it was obvious that they would. Qin Qingmo asked Xu Wushao how he was feeling, and if he was in pain. The people around them began to discuss what was happening, saying that it was possible that Qin Qingmo was showing concern for Xu Wushao. The audience began to grimace and make fun of the young couple. Xu Wushao looked at his wife and thought that this girl was too good for him. Qin Qingmo asked her husband, Xu Wushao, why he was frozen and kept silent and didn't answer her. Xu Wushao replied to the beautiful consort that he was indeed in a bit of pain at first, but it immediately became easier when he saw his beautiful wife. Qin Qingmo replied to the delighted young man that if he was fine, then he would be fine. You should go home with her. Xu Wushao said that he understood and would immediately follow his little wife. The evil tongues of the street began to discuss the newlyweds, saying that Qin Qingmo really forgave her walking husband because he went to a brothel on their wedding night, and how can such a thing be forgiven at all? Gossips speculated that the beautiful Qin Qingmo really had such a big heart for forgiving the guy. Qin Qingmo asked Shi Guangping what he was doing here. Xu Wushao wondered who the hell Shi Guangping was. The guy who met him said that he came here to find Xu Wushao. Shi Guangping told her new husband that he was a complete jerk and that he was not ashamed to hide behind a woman's skirt. Xu Wushao replied to the cheeky Shi Guangping that he was a son of a bitch and he should look at himself first, because it was obvious to everyone in the area that he wanted his wife Qin Qingmo. Xu Wushao asked the opponent, calling him bald head, if he had anything to say to that. Shi Guangping wondered what was going on and why this little guy Xu Wushao had a very dirty tongue. Xu Wushao asked Shi Guangping why he was so silent, so full of water, so it was true what they were saying about him. Shi Guangping he yelled at the guy not to try to start a stupid conversation with him, because he wouldn't be able to do it. Shi Guangping stated that a family competition would be held in a month's time and asked Xu Wushao if he dared to accept his challenge. Shi Guangping suggested to Xu Wushao that if he lost the competition, he would have to divorce Qin Qingmo. Xu Wushao replied to Shi Guangping that he promised here and now that he would never bet on his wife again, but this time he would accept his challenge for one reason only, that anyone who covets his wife must die like a disgraceful dog. Qin Qingmo told Xu Wushao that he was fine in his desire to protect her honor in this situation. Xu Wushao suggested to his beautiful wife that they should go home now. Shi Guangping cursed in annoyance and thought, why did that piece of shit Xu Wushao suddenly speak up so loudly? Shi Guangping promised himself that when he definitely killed Xu Wushao, then sooner or later he would end up in Qin Qingmo's bed and enjoy her beautiful body properly, and only this thought would add to his strength. Yu Feng, who had lost his argument, shouted that he really couldn't eat the promised poo, but those who witnessed his promises told him to shut up and quickly do what he had to do. Qin Silly asked his brother-in-law, Xu Wushao, why he allowed himself to be treated like an animal like this. Qin Silly explained to Xu Wushao that his actions would affect the reputation of the entire Qin family. Xu Wushao told his father-in-law to stop worrying so much and take everything to heart. He promised Qin Silly that he would now work hard to gain the respect of the Qin family. Xu Wushao thought that he now had special skills, and if he practiced a little, everyone's jaws would drop in surprise. Qin Silly reminded Xu Wushao that 2 months ago he said he wanted to practice martial arts, and he ordered a sword for him for 2,000 taels, and he sold it as a trinket. Qin Silly also reminded his son-in-law that a month ago he said that he wanted to enter the textbook cultivation path, and he spent 3,000 taels while he was wiping their ass in the toilet. Qin Silly asked Xu Wushao that he also intended to work hard again now. Xu Wushao tried to explain that it would be different this time, and he was determined to improve. The mother-in-law told Xu Wushao that it was all his own fault for being treated like this in the family. Mother-in-law with annoyingly, she added, why did they only give their daughter Kin Kingmo to him? Because it was a complete mistake that only added problems to their family. Kin Silly sighed in annoyance and said that he also couldn't know that this child would disappoint them so much. Kin Kingmo told her parents to stop talking about it and worry about it, since they were already married to Shu Wuzhou and the job was done. Kin Kingmo suggested to everyone present that they should get to the point. Kin Kingmo told her husband, Shu Wuzhou, that the Qin family would help him give up the bet with Shai Guangping. Kin Kingmo explained to her husband what it was. This is unacceptable, because human life is at stake, and all this is not a joke, so you need to solve the problem as quickly as possible. Shu Wuzhou told his wife, Kin Kingmo, that she really cared so much about him and tried to keep him out of trouble. Kin Kingmo didn't appreciate Shu Wuzhou's tone and said that he should solve his own problems without her help. Shu Wuzhou told his wife to stop because he didn't mean what she might think. Kin Silly told Shu Wuzhou to stop for a moment and listen to him. Shu Wuzhou replied. Kin Silly's father-in-law said that he was willing to listen to him if he had something to say. Kin Silly told Shu Wuzhou's son-in-law that from today on, he would be punished and sleep in the barn until he allowed him to sleep in the house again. The guy with annoyance replied to his father-in-law that he understood everything and of course would not dare to disobey him and accept this punishment. Shu Wuzhou shouted as loudly as he could that he was already leaving the house immediately. Kin Silly spat out what it meant that the Mao and Li families had hired a swordsman and now Shu Wuzhou was unlikely to survive. Kin Silly said that in this case they needed to find a way to counter them, otherwise their Qin family might completely perish. The wife of the head of the Qin family replied that she did not know that Mao and Li had found a swordsman. Kin Silly told his wife that there was no way for him to find out anything about this right now, and he didn't know if their Qin family would even be able to survive this calamity. Shu Wuzhou wondered what kind of swords they were talking about, since his father-in-law, Kin Silly, hadn't mentioned them during their conversation, which was quite strange. Shu Wuzhou decided that now he didn't know if he could help the Qin family at all. Shu Wuzhou heard the security guard telling someone that they couldn't go inside. The next moment, the unexpected guests yelled at the security guard to get out of their way immediately. Two residents of the city began discussing what had happened, saying that surely someone dared to provoke the Qin family. One said to the other that he didn't know yet that the two Mao and Li families wanted to buy the Qin family's weapons industry, so there might be trouble. The resident replied that the Qin family's weapons industry was the foundation of their family, and they didn't intend to give it away. The all-knowing guy said that the Mao and Li families now had quite a few weapons, and even if the Qin family didn't agree to their terms, it was likely that things would end badly. The head of the Qin family, Kin Silly, loudly asked that who dared to break through the gate of his house. Mao Zhen replied to Kin Silly that they were here to talk to him about the merger of the Qin family's weapons industry and their Mao and Li families. The patriarch of the Lei family, Lei Wenfeng, said that they apologized for the inconvenience caused to the Qin family. Kin Silly asked the intruders that they really thought that if they had weapons now, they would be able to destroy his Qin family so easily. Mao Zhen laughed and said that now about 70% of the customers from all out of Ilingen City had invested in their two gun shops, and asked Kin Silly wondered why he doubted their abilities. Lai Wenfeng asked Kin Silly that maybe his Qin family also had enough weapons with this arrangement of forces. Kin Silly replied to the intruders that they were completely insolent and, of course, his family had the necessary amount of weapons. Mao Zhen and Li Wenfeng suggested to Kin Silly that if it was as he said, then they wouldn't mind taking a look at the weapons. The uninvited guests said that this entire herd of city residents would witness so that no one would slander his Qin family's reputation. Residents of the city began to argue and say that the Qin family has deep roots and of course they have weapons, but they have never shown them. Although the entire market is now run by the Mao and Li families, and if the Qin family actually had a weapon, they would have shown it a long time ago. As such, if the Qin family didn't show their weapons, it was likely that they would never recover their reputation and would be disgraced. The head of the Kin Silly family thought that he could only show them the last batch of their forged swords right now, and he didn't know if they could match the swords of the Mao and Li families. Qin Sili told Qin San to go get the last one a batch of forged swords and demonstrated it. Qin San replied to the head of the family that those swords were no better than the previous ones, and they didn't even know if they could be compared to the swords of the Mao or families. Qin Sili barked at him that there was no need for unnecessary words, but just do what he told him to do. Xu Wuzhao, watching what was happening in the courtyard, thought that it was very noisy here, and maybe he could somehow help his father-in-law in this situation. Once inside the building, Xu Wuzhao thought that the swords must be stored here somewhere and decided that he might be able to stop these two intruders. Xu Wuzhao looked at the sword he had obtained and said that it was indeed of very good quality. Xu Wuzhao thought that this sword might be useful to his father-in-law, Qin Sili. He decided that he felt like he was born for this sword. Xu Wuzhao realized that these swords were all made of metal and he could borrow some for himself to improve his abilities with the magic bowl. Qin San shouted at Xu Wuzhao about what he was doing here and what he was doing. Qin San told the guy that the Qin family was in a critical situation and he was thinking about how to steal some money from the family. Swords for your satisfaction. Xu Wuzhao told Qin San that he had misunderstood and explained that he did not want to paint these swords at all, but only wanted to take them to his father-in-law Qin Sili. Xu Wuzhao added that he wanted to do this in order to show that the Qin family also has good weapons and rub the nose of those scoundrels from the Mao and Li families. Qin San replied that if that was the case, he would help Xu Wuzhao with it. Xu Wuzhao yelled at Qin San as to why he was still standing in his tracks and ordered him to quickly pick up the swords and carry them. Qin San replied, then he understood everything and would do it immediately. The head of the family, Qin Sili, invited the guests from the Mao and Li families to sit and test the quality of his swords by testing them in action. Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng thought that these swords looked very bad for quality weapons, and they wanted to see the Qin family be completely humiliated. Mao Zhen told Qin Sili that he did not believe that he really had a decent weapon to show off with pride. The head of the Qin Sili family thought that it was probably the end of his family's reputation right now, and if these swords were broken, there would be no escape from the disgrace, and these scoundrels were from the Mao families, and they will triumph over him. Xu Wuzhao thought that there was going to be a show, and everyone should get ready to see the expressions on the faces of these two idiots from the Mao and Li families. Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng thought that their hair was rising up when their swords shattered like glass and shouted that how is this even possible. The head of the family, Qin Sili, thought with a start that his swords were stronger than Mao and Lei's. Residents began to discuss this turn of events, saying that after all, the Qin family had been producing weapons for a long time. Although there were some doubts about the Qin family at first, they still managed to do so. It's easy to defeat Mao and Lai. People thought that the Qin family did produce good weapons, but it was just that no one knew about it since they didn't put them up for sale. Mao Zhen said that this definitely shouldn't have happened now. Lai Wangfeng replied that they really underestimated the ability of this Qin family. Family head Qin Sili reminded the uninvited guests that they were still standing in his family's courtyard. Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng said that they seemed to have underestimated him and that it was time for them to leave, as they had stayed too long. Xu Wuzhao asked Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng to wait for a moment, as he had business to attend to. Xu Wuzhao reminded Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng that they had broken down their door and questioned the quality of the Qin family's swords. Xu Wuzhao told the guests that they really just wanted to leave without apologizing. The head of the Qin Sili family wondered if this guy Xu Wuzhao was getting him into trouble again. Xu Wuzhao told Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng that there was an ancient rule to kill people for debts they couldn't pay. The guy told the uninvited guests that they didn't think that anyone passing by could just come and break down the doors of his Qin family. Xu Wuzhao explained to the guests Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng said that his Qin family would not do anything to them if they paid them compensation for the damage caused in the amount of 10,000 taels. Xu Wuzhao stated that this door was made of ancient Talmud from the Hanshan Mountains, and it was made in 1981. Its careful processing took 10 years, and transportation of such expensive items should be very careful. That being said, everyone here knows that the Qin family has always been an honest merchant. Shu Wushao said that he shouldn't be blamed for calling it too much a great price, but they should know that the ancient tongue tree is worth the money. Shu Wushao reminded that the Qin family really has a rich history and works hard, so 10,000 taels for this door isn't that much at all. Shu Wushao advised the guests from the Mao and Li families that they had better pay their debt as soon as possible. Family head Qin Sili thought that he would never have believed that Shu Wushao was still very kind to his family. Mao Zhen replied to Shu Wushao that he was just a dog raised by the Qin family and that he might even know about the rules. Head of the family Qin Sili advised Mao Zhen to watch his mouth because Shu Wushao was his son-in-law and it was not worth insulting him, especially in front of him. Mao Zhen tried to argue with Qin Sili, but Li Wangfeng stopped him. He explained to Mao Zhen that the crowd was not on their side, and they had better pay 5,000 taels each now, as it would be better than losing the reputation of their two families. Mao Zhen gritted his teeth and told Li Wangfeng that he would accept the compensation. Li Wangfeng told Shu Wushao that it was compensation for the broken door, and asked if they could leave now. Shu Wushao happily thought that looks like these guys don't mind spending 10,000 taels. Shu Wushao told the intruders that he thought they both misunderstood him and explained that they each had to pay 10,000 taels. Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng exclaimed in unison that this was simply impossible. The head of the Qin family, Sili, asked them if something was really wrong, and if they didn't want to pay for the damage caused by showing the Qin family guards led by Billy the famous gay actor. Shu Wushao looked at the big men beside his father-in-law and wondered if Qin Sili was still here. I have such a beauty, and decided that this is not the best place for him. Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng decided that they would not survive the meeting with Billy and said that they would give the missing amount of money. Shu Wushao told them that it was a good and fair deal, and it was fine if both sides agreed to the terms. Shu Wushao suggested that the guests visit them more often because the Qin house has an old flower vase that costs only 5,000 taels. Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng replied that it was probably a joke and they were unlikely to buy such a vase. Shu Wushao said that the dog that is next to them is quite expensive and costs 52,000 taels since it is still a living creature. But cockroaches that still have their heads are much cheaper and will only cost 100 taels each. Finally, the guy shouted to the fleeing guests that he almost forgot and they still have different clothes. Shu Wushao thought that they would see each other again, and if these guys were going to come here again, then let them know that they had a weapon that would destroy them. The townspeople immediately discussed what had happened in the Qin family's courtyard, saying that the Mao and Li families couldn't see past their noses, and even when they try to provoke the Qin family, they are ruining their own reputation and apparently don't understand it. It became clear to the residents of the city that the Mao and Li families alone would definitely not be able to stand up to the Qin family, at least not now under these conditions. Family head Qin Sili said that even if his son-in-law Shu Wushao could teach these scoundrels a lesson, then he could too. Qin Sili thought that he had almost burned himself out again, having said too much. Shu Wushao enthusiastically decided that he had received a full 20,000 taels, and now he had no idea how powerful he could become if he bought a metal to strengthen his body and Ki energy with the help of a magic bowl. Family head Qin Sili told his son-in-law why he was still here, and it was time for him to go to the warehouse and finish all his business. Shu Wushao replied to his father-in-law that he agreed to go to the warehouse, but how now his money? The head of the family told the guy that he needed the money more because he still needed to repair the doors destroyed by the guests. Shu Wushao held back his emotions and thought he didn't expect that this old man, his father-in-law, would be so much more impudent than him. The head of the Qin Sili family looked at his son-in-law and decided that he was not a bad guy at all, and there was hope that when he became more responsible, he would still be able to bear the burden of their Qin family. Shu Wushao couldn't accept that he was left without such a tidy sum of money and only cried in frustration. Family head Qin Sili said that it was unbelievable that all these swords were filled with power and it was completely unclear where they came from. Qin Sili said that he personally checked these swords when he left the warehouse last time and they were without any power. Qin Sili asked Qin San if he had seen anyone touch these swords before. Qin-san replied that no one had touched any of the swords except for him and Xu Wuxiao in his presence. Family head Qin Silly said that if it was Xu Wuxiao who did it to him, it was simply impossible and unlikely that he would be able to do it with swords. Xu Wuxiao, who was in the warehouse, thought that he had finally finished everything. Xu Wuxiao wondered where he could get the metal and realized that there was a whole lot of it in the warehouse and he was actually in heaven. The guy said that he finally put everything together and it was time for a special training session. Xu Wuxiao, while making improvements with the samsara bowl, exclaimed forward and started feeding the artifact with energy. Xu Wuxiao wondered in surprise if this was the 9th meridian. Xu Wuxiao was delighted to realize that he had instantly opened the 9th meridian and reached the peak of the blood realm without much effort, and it was all thanks to the bowl that bad-smelling old man had left him. This result inspired confidence in their abilities. The owner of the Eel Imperial Hall told her visitors Shai Lei and Shai Sen to try to come to her brothel more often to have fun, and I am always glad to see them. Shi Sen told his drinking buddy that Xu Wuxiao wasn't in the brothel, and besides, no one else came, so there was no one to have fun with this time. Shai Lei replied to his friend that he would meet Xu Wuxiao tomorrow and added that he always took and brought something valuable from the Qin family's house, so they would have something to go out and drink. Shai Lei promised Shi Sen that they would return to the brothel very soon and continue the fun. The stranger's voice spoke to Shai Lei, and Senator Shai Lei asked the strange guy who he was and what he wanted from them. Shi Sen realized that it was the same Shi Guanping standing in their way and wondering what he wanted. Shi Guanping said that he needed help from them in a delicate matter for good money. Shi Guanping explained to Shai Lei and Shi Sen that there was someone to kill, and he was willing to pay them 100 taels up front right now, and he would pay the rest after they completed his task. Shi Sen and Shai Lei thought that this was a very tempting offer, and it was very convenient for them to have 100 taels in their hands right now. The guys asked their customer Shi Guanping that he wanted to kill someone with their help for such a great price. At the same time, Shai Lei and Shi Sen asked Shi Guanping how much he would be willing to pay them after completing the planned murder, as they are very interested in this and money likes to count. Shi Guanping explained to Shi Sen and Shai Lei that he needed to kill Xu Wuxiao of the Qin family at all costs, and this was their target for killing, and the reward for them would be very generous, and they would not be offended in any way. Shi Lei and Shi Sen said in unison that this is absolutely impossible for any money and under no circumstances. The boys sobered up from their indignation and explained to Xi Guanping that Xu Wuxiao was their best friend and that everyone knew this, so they couldn't agree to such a task in which they had to kill their friend. Shi Guanping asked Shai Lei and Shi Sen that they wouldn't really care about their precious friend Xu Wuxiao if they were paid very handsomely for his worthless life, and they couldn't find such easy money anywhere else. Shi Guanping reminded the boys that there is an old truth in life, that everything in this world has a price, which means everything is for sale, even the absurdity of friendship. Shi Sen and Shai Lei replied to Xi Guanping that Xu Wuxiao was their real brother, even if he wasn't a blood brother. The boys explained indignantly that their hearts and souls, life and death, had always been linked together with their friend Xu Wuxiao, so there's no way they can take the dastardly step of killing him. Shi Lei and Shi Sen asked Shi Guanping if he really thought that they could trade their friendship for some money and betray the fact that they had always been together with Xu Wuxiao in all life's situations and troubles. How dare he plan to kill Xu Wuxiao in such a despicable way anyway? Shi Guanping realized that the words of these incorruptible friends were just dust in the eyes, and they were trying to inflate the price, and everything rested on the amount of money as always and everywhere. Shi Guanping asked Shai Lei and Shi Sen if they could stop talking about the situation. Empty, and yet they will stop playing with words by saying their real decision. Shi Guanping added that he wasn't joking, and he really needed them to kill Xu Wuxiao as soon as possible. Shai Lei and Shi Sen replied to Xi Guanping that he would have to pay well for their agreement, and so they were basically willing to settle the matter with their friend Xu Wuxiao. Shi Guanping said that this was a completely different matter and they had made the right choice, but they didn't have to worry about the money as long as it was done. Shi Guanping explained to the corrupt guys that once they were done with the task, Shu Wishao would be if he is dead, then he will pay each of them 500 taels. Shi Sen and Shai Lei both said that they were ready for the task and assured Shu Wishao that there wasn't much time left in this world. Due to the fact that the bowl is filled with a liquid of pure energy, it increases the power level by 3 times. Shu Wishao said that the Samsara cup most likely actually increased one's strength by 3 times. The guy thought that if one level is counted as 3 indicators, then it means that he is now at the 9th level. Shu Wishao realized that he had now received 27 levels of improvement, and this is an incredible breakthrough of his abilities, and all thanks to the Bowl of Samsara. Shu Wishao decided that he urgently needed to find a place where he could check it out for sure. The Qin family's son-in-law decided that the warehouse was too small for his plan, and if there was a 27-level explosion, then he would be immediately detected, which he didn't need at all. Therefore, it would be better to find someone for this test. Shi Lei and Shi Sen told their friend Shu Wishao that they were here to take his worthless life. In the next moment, the guys swore after failing to hit their target with the first strike. Shu Wishao was surprised that it was Shai Lei and Shi Sen who came for him and wondered what strange posture they had chosen to attack. Shu Wishao told his former friends that it didn't seem like they were here today to have a drink with him. Shi Sen and Shai Lei laughed and said that of course not, and there was someone who had paid them well for his death. Shu Wishao asked his killers that how come they wanted him dead, because he remembered that they called each other brothers forever. The guy said that it was very funny, since he decided that his drinking buddies would become him brothers. The killers explained that they were just making fools of themselves for free booze and couldn't pass up this opportunity to make money. Shu Wishao asked the guys what they should say about who was behind this, and then he might not kill them because of their friendship. Shi Sen replied that they also remembered, and he would rather kill himself so that they wouldn't get their hands dirty. Shu Wishao said, "Are they really so confident and not afraid of death?" The guy said that he probably forgot that they were Taoists. Shai Lei told the guy that he would give him a knife and wanted to see how he could kill them. Shu Wishao replied that it was better not to force him. Shai Lei said that he was ready to force him because he was completely confident in himself. Shi Sen thought that Shai Lei's key level was at the 6th level and Shu Wishao was no match for him. He smirked and told Shai Lei to stop tormenting Shu Wishao because he was their friend. Shu Wishao declared to his opponents that he was giving them one last chance. Shi Sen told Shu Wishao that how did he manage to hide his strength all this time, since Shai Lei was at the 6th level, but he didn't even have a chance to resist. Shu Wishao replied that it was their own fault and asked for it, but now he had better tell them who sent them, and maybe it was Shi Guangping or one of his other enemies. Shi Sen replied that it was really Shi Guangping who wanted him dead, and that he was the one who sent them after paying a lot of money for it. Shi Sen asked to be forgiven by us for the sake of their former friendship. Shu Wishao asked if he really wanted to be forgiven and struck out. Shu Wishao thought about it, that this power of 27 bulls is really powerful, but what should he do with these 2 scum? A female voice said that it was a very interesting picture, and who would have thought that the family's pitiful son-in-law would turn out to be a martial artist. Shu Wishao realized that it was Dai Tengshan, the special martial artist of the Qin residence. He wondered what she was doing here, this dangerous and beautiful girl. Dai Tengshan said that Master had ruined his reputation for nothing and asked Shu Wishao if he was afraid of pain. Shu Wishao cried out in pain as he thought that the medical scrolls were moving. Dai Tengshan asked Shu Wishao why he was still silent and whether she really needed to repeat her question. Shu Wishao told her that there was no need to worry about his health, and she wouldn't be able to cure her illness if she didn't know anything about it, and added that he didn't think she had much time left in this world. Dai Tengshan exclaimed in surprise that how did he know about her problem? Shu Wishao replied to Dai Tengshan that he could see her illness in her eyes. Shu Wishao thought that he couldn't believe that this old man would just leave the yin and yang scrolls in plain sight, and now he had a pretty patient and had to take the risk. Dai Tengshan was overjoyed and said that young Master Shu Wishao was very kind to her. Shu Wishao said that he was still very strong, like Naruto or Luffy somewhere around them. Dai Tengshan thought that news of her injury should not be spread, otherwise it might attract the attention of the Chu family, which is completely unacceptable. The girl decided that she would still have to kill that boy Xu Wuxiao to avoid spreading the word. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tengshan that he wasn't sure, but it looked like the injury was in her heart. Dai Tengshan asked the guy if he could treat her injury right now and help her with such a problem. Xu Wuxiao asked the girl not to think anything like that, but he was only interested in money, not women, and he was embarrassed by her frank appearance. Dai Tengshan asked the guy how much he wanted for his help in curing the disease. Xu Wuxiao replied to the girl that he would certainly make a discount, but he wouldn't charge her less than 300,000 taels. Dai Tengshan thought that healing her illness for 300 taels was very cheap and quite a bargain price. Xu Wuxiao explained to the girl that she had to pay him 300 taels and clarified that he was not going to bargain. Dai Tengshan exclaimed that it was really only 300 taels and thought that this boy did not understand anything about money at all and was asking her for mere pennies for her abilities. Xu Wuxiao told his patient that if it was too expensive for her, then they could just wait for her to die. Dai Tengshan she told him not to worry about the money and asked Xu Wuxiao to show her the results of her treatment first. Xu Wuxiao told the girl that she was right and needed to find a more suitable place for the treatment procedure. Xu Wuxiao decided that with yin and yang skills he could cure any disease, and with the money he received, he would buy a whole bunch of steel and further increase his strength level with the samsara ball. And in general, now he can earn a lot of money very easily. Dai Tengshan told the guy that she was very grateful for his help. Each of them thought to each other that this time he should take advantage of such a moment and seduce. Xu Wuxiao suggested that his patient let Tengshan go inside the warehouse and there he could help her heal. The girl readily agreed to the offer and went ahead to the warehouse. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tengshan that she needed to lie down and lower her dress a little to start the procedure. Watching them, 1K the dog wondered what the hell the humans were going to do inside. Dai Tengshan asked physician Xu Wuxiao exactly how she needed to lie down so that he would be comfortable treating her. The girl asked her doctor if everything was all right with him, as he looked like very excited. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tengshan that he was fine and ready for the healing procedure. 1K the dog barked, trying to tell the guy not to move and that he would do everything with this little girl. Xu Wuxiao was surprised and said, "What can this 1K dog be doing here so late?" The girl thought that this was disgusting and that this vile dog should die immediately. Xu Wuxiao found himself envying this lustful dog that was sticking to the girl's beautiful legs like a sucker. 1K thought admiringly that the taste of this beautiful debauchee's feet was divine. Dai Tengshan yelled at the animal to go to hell, pervert dog. Xu Wuxiao said that the dog did a great thing that they didn't dare to do, and his deeds will be extolled by people all over the world, and they will all sing songs about him and wish him rest in peace. Dai Tengshan asked the guy to stop this circus and asked if he could actually cure her or not, and demanded to start the procedure immediately. Xu Wuxiao told the girl that she needed to turn her back, since the right acupuncture point was located on the back of her back. Xu Wuxiao thought that the girl's skin was so pure and delicate that it was a sin not to taste it. Dai Tengshan asked the guy to be gentle, as she is very afraid that she will be hurt during the procedure. Xu Wuxiao told the patient not to worry and that she could fully trust him in this matter. The guy said that usually this procedure is painful, but he has a full hand in such cases and everything will be fine. Dai Tengshan yelled at Xu Wuxiao that she was in great pain from the needle prick. Dai Tengshan thought that if Xu Wuxiao could really cure her now, then there would be no problem with him, but if he was only pretending to be a master of the art of healing to deceive her, then she would destroy him along with the entire Qin family. Xu Wuxiao told his patient to be patient for a while, and he was almost done with the acupuncture needle. Dai Tengshan thought that she had been pierced by 1,000 pricks in just 1 second, and how was that possible? Dai Tengshan knew that this kind of acupuncture technique was something that only the best doctors knew, and she didn't expect that this kind of acupuncture technique could be used at all. This young man can wield Xu Wuxiao. The guy told his patient that she had just a little patience left, and there was still one more place for a needle prick, and she would be cured. Dai Tengshan was numbed from the pain and sharp penetration of the needle into her head, but she had time to think that this was the most dangerous and effective method in acupuncture needle treatment. Xu Wuzhao told Dai Tengxin that that was all, and now she needed to quickly cover up her beautiful body so that no one could see them and misunderstand what they were really doing here. Dai Tengxin told her doctor that she feels like a dark one, the Kai energy has left her body, and now she feels much better, as if she has come back to life. Xu Wuzhao replied that everything went well as he expected, although it couldn't be otherwise because he is a true master in the art of using acupuncture needles, only now his shoulder is a little sore from exertion. Dai Tengxin thought that Lingen was the most beautiful city in Kyushu province, and it was home to some very amazing people like this guy Xu Wuzhao. Dai Tengxin was surprised that Xu Wuzhao had kept his strength hidden for so long and thought that he was probably just afraid that his little brother was too strong. The plan will be exposed. Xu Wuzhao told his patient Dai Tengxin that he noticed her looking at him intently. The guy asked the cured seductress if he can now be sure that he will receive from her his honestly earned fee for her treatment. Dai Tengxin told her savior that she had never thought that he was so good at medicine, so she liked him even more than before. The girl added that she is very grateful to him for the sensations of a healthy body that she can now feel after his treatment. Xu Wuzhao replied grateful he told the girl that it was not necessary to say unnecessary words and asked her not to try to bring down the price for his magic treatment. The guy told Dai Tengxin that the price remains the same and is 300 taels, and that's the end of it. Dai Tengxin called her Dr. Silly and said that she could not imagine a lower price for treatment and she would pay everything. She thought that she shouldn't let Xu Wuzhao know that his price of 300 taels was too low after all. Xu Wuzhao replied to Dai Tengxin that he appreciated her self-respect, while thinking that he rather appreciated her beautiful breasts from the view which blows his mind. Xu Wuzhao told the cured girl that he was willing to offer her a small discount as a sign of a successful result. Dai Tengxin replied to the guy that she agreed and offered him to take 299 taels. Xu Wuzhao thought that he was very happy that he had received the money, even though in reality his treatment was only worth 100 taels. He decided that for this girl, such a sum was just a trifle, and for him, a huge fortune. Dai Tengxin told the guy that if he suddenly didn't want to take the money, she was willing to offer herself to him as a reward for his help. Xu Wuzhao replied to the seductress that she really wanted to grab his body, and he would rather take the money, since he was not ready for intimacy with her. Dai Tengxin thought that this guy was actually normal, since he had given up on her, and now she didn't understand anything at all. Dai Tengxin told Xu Wuzhao that it seemed that his life in the Qin family wasn't enviable at all. The girl told Xu Wuzhao that she had a lucrative business offer for him that would definitely interest him. Dai Tengxin asked the guy what he thought about it, and she wanted his answer without delay. Xu Wuzhao replied to the girl that he was interested in a lucrative financial offer, and he was ready to listen in more detail about what was being discussed, especially the amount that would be paid to him. Dai Tengxin explained to her healer that someone had been poisoned by poison and needed to help that person detoxify. 2 kopeck piece told Xu Wuzhao that he could get as much as 100 taels for this help. Xu Wuzhao replied to the beautiful patient that she probably wants to offend him with such a proposal, and it does not quite suit him. The guy explained to Dai Tengxin that one consultation on a client's existing problem would cost 500 taels. The girl told Xu Wuzhao that his price was too high, and she was only willing to offer him 300 taels for his work, and asked if he agreed or not, as she would not add any more money. Xu Wuzhao told Dai Tengxin that it should be so, and he agreed to the suggestion, adding at the same time what they are waiting for, and it's time to go to the patient as soon as possible. Xu Wuzhao thought that he was being tricksy and deliberately overcharged for his work, suggesting that Dai Tengxin would bargain with him. Xu Wuzhao was overjoyed, thinking that this time he would get a whole lot of money for his efforts. Dai Tengxin wondered if she had overestimated Xu Wuzhao after all, and if he really was a stupid person to agree to work for such ridiculous money. Dai Tengxin asked her healer that didn't he tell her that all the acupuncture points on her body were blocked and she wouldn't be hurt, so why was the last needle prick so painful? Xu Wuxiao replied to his beautiful patient that the fact was that her butt was quite tempting, and he had allowed himself a little distraction during the acupuncture process. Dai Tension yelled at the guy and wished him dead for being so impudent. Dai Tension asked the guy to wait outside for her while she walked forward. Xu Wuxiao thought that this girl was quite a mysterious person. Dai Tension asked Yu Feng how he was doing. Yu Feng anxiously asked the girl what she wanted to do with him and asked her to don't get too close, or he'll scream at the top of his lungs. Dai Tension asked the shackled boy to be an obedient boy and calm down, and promised that she would not harm him in any way. The girl explained to Yu Feng that she was injured and worried that he would tell someone about it, so she had to tie him up, but now everything is fine and she is ready to let him go. Dai Tension told the guy that she would help him get rid of the poison that was in his body. Yu Feng wondered why this little witch had become so kind to him. Dai Tension asked the guy that maybe something was wrong, and maybe he changed his mind about leaving. Yu Feng told the girl that he didn't want her to torture him again and asked her to just tell him what she really wanted. The guy explained that he was even scarier when she was acting so cute. Dai Tension told Yu Feng that he was free to leave from now on, as she wouldn't keep him locked up anymore. Yu Feng asked the beautiful witch if she was really letting him go and wouldn't torture him in this barn anymore. Dai Tension explained to Yu Feng that he really could go wherever he wanted right now, but only on one condition: he had to promise her that he would do something for her later when she wanted it. Dai Tension told Yu Feng that she would help him get rid of the poison and it would ease his condition. Yu Feng asked his captor if it was really her who had decided to help him with this problem. Yu Feng explained that this poison is not simple, but it is handmade by his father, and he has already seen all the famous doctors, but none of them were able to help him get rid of the poison, so it is almost an impossible task. Dai Tension replied that she was confident that the poison could be removed and that she would definitely solve the problem. Dai Tension thought that Xu Wuxiao had done a great job of healing her wounds and that it would certainly be much more difficult to deal with this poison, but she had confidence in the young healer and he would definitely be able to do it. Yu Feng told Dai Tension that he would be very grateful to her for such help. After all, she saves him like a magic wand. The guy told the young witch that she was his gift of fate, and he would never forget her kindness and would forever praise her in his words, as her kindness has no boundaries like a wide, stormy river. Dai Tension thought irritably, why is this young guy Yu Feng constantly falling at her feet like she's some kind of goddess? Yu Feng went on to say that Dai Tension was very kind and supportive, like her own mother, and maybe even more so. Dai Tension caught herself thinking that this guy was talking a lot, and she had already done it get so tired of it that you just want to kill it. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tension that she was finally back because he was already tired of waiting for her and asked who she had brought with her. Dai Tension told the young healer that he needed to treat this Yu Feng guy she had brought urgently. Xu Wuxiao replied that he could easily deal with it and asked if the problem was that her friend had AIDS. Yu Feng replied to Xu Wuxiao that it wasn't like that at all, and even though his relatives were really sick with AIDS, he didn't have it himself, and that was absolutely certain. Xu Wuxiao replied to Yu Feng that he understood and agreed that AIDS had nothing to do with it, thinking that the client was always right. Yu Feng explained that it was all because of his Dachibag father who created the illusion that women would avoid him. And so he hadn't been in the woman's company for 3 whole days. Xu Wuxiao wondered what was wrong with this guy. After all, he hadn't been with a woman for only 3 days and was acting like it had been forever. Xu Wuxiao decided that he needed to stay calm in this situation, and when he was done, he would also get something. Xu Wuxiao told Yu Feng that it is worth worrying about, and he will cure it with a needle, and added that for this you need to undress. Yu Feng asked if his illness could be cured, to which Xu Wuxiao replied that he could be trusted. Yu Feng invited the healer to come closer to him and assured him that he wasn't contagious at all. Xu Wuxiao replied that he undressed very quickly as if for a sick person. Yu Feng clarified that he usually undresses even faster and thanked Xu Wuxiao for the compliment. Dai Tension thought that this boy Yu Feng didn't have a single bit of conscience and still had to be castrated. After finishing his manipulations, Xu Wuxiao said that everything was now ready. Yu Feng said that he was feeling really good right now. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tension that he wanted 300 taels and not a coin less. The girl replied that she was ready to pay this amount. Xu Wizhao thought that he had received a lot more money than he expected, and now with this amount, he would be able to level up his skills before the competition started and be ready to win. Yu Feng was surprised that this young healer had received such a small sum for his treatment. Yu Feng said that it was really only 300 taels, since it was all the money he had. He asked Dai Tangshan why she called out that rascal Xu Wuzhao, and did he really need to fulfill his promise now for these measly pennies that she had spent on treating him? Dai Tangshan asked Yu Feng what was so special about it and whether he really regretted her action. Yu Feng realized his mistake and said that it was a fair deal and he had nothing to regret at all. Xu Wuzhao said that since he was done with his work, it was high time for him to go about his business. Xu Wuzhao thought that since he had received the money, he should get away from these strange people as soon as possible. Yu Feng thought that this healer Xu Wuzhao was an amazing person, and he liked it very much. I would like to be friends with it in order to earn a lot of money with it. Dai Tangshan told Yu Feng not to even think about it since she herself had her eye on Xu Wuzhao. Over dinner, Dai Tangshan told Xu Wuzhao that the Lingen competition would start soon and when he was going to go there. Xu Wuzhao replied to the girl that if he went there now, it would be too easy. He thought that having arrived in the city too early, the locals would try to kill him quickly because of his reputation. Xu Wuzhao and Yu Feng exclaimed that they needed to open up at the last moment and should praise them for their generosity. The girl thought that they only drank wine and immediately began to pretend to be real men. Shi Pingcheng, while beating up his opponent, Huang Ting taunted and urged him to stay in the ring better. Shi Pingcheng stated if there is someone who can challenge his family and added that his Tai family is indisputably the strongest and best. Qin Sili thought that it was a complete failure and 5 consecutive games were lost to the Qi family. Qin Sili understood that according to the rules of big family games, the loser would give up a part of the business, and if they lost, his family would be flown out of the western city. Qin Qingmo told her father that maybe she should go and try to fight in the ring. Qin Sili told his daughter that her key power alone would not be enough, and that she should also rely on her combat skills, and even more so, she was not as well prepared as the assassins. After the Qi family fighters won all 5 games in a row, Shai Guangping, with a haughty expression, turned to Qin Shibo and said that last year, he and Wu Xiao had promised that if his son-in-law didn't take first place, he would pay him with all the Xu family's possessions. And now, as he sees it, Wu Xiao didn't even show up for the competition. He feels that Qin Shibo should hand over the Xu family's property to him immediately. Qin Shibo wiped the sweat on his forehead and thought that that idiot Xu Wuzhao had gotten him into trouble again. Suddenly, everyone was surprised to see the figure of Qin family's son-in-law Xu Wuzhao standing near the arena. He calmly turned to Kai Guangping and told him not to rush to take the property he had put on the line, or maybe he was in a hurry to get money to treat his impotence. Guangping furiously shouted at him as he dared to come here. It looks like he's tired of living. To which the young man replied that he not only decided to come, but also prepared a good gift for him. Life and death are very unpredictable. When his coffin is lifted, the Qin family's funeral team will happily guide him on his final journey to eternal life. Qin Qingmo, who was present, wondered where on earth Wu Xiao had picked up such a thing. It looks pretty funny. The audience around the arena was very happy with the show that was starting. Great job. Shi Guangping will be furious. It was time for him to stop Wu Xiao's attacks on him. Xu Wuzhao's father-in-law, Qin Shibo, then began to curse at him. What was he doing here? Didn't he tell him to lock himself in and stay in his room? Wu Xiao replied that he came here with the hope of helping the Qin family. The father-in-law became even angrier and asked the youth, knowing that the Tsai family wanted him dead, did he still come here? After realizing that Qin Shibo was still worried about him, Wu Xiao told him not to worry. He had prepared enough to meet the Qi assassin family. He is confident that he will win and become a famous fighter in Lingen City. Wu Xiao, confident in his skills, knew that the task before him was not an easy one, but his determination and training gave him strength. He was confident that he would always find the enemy's weak points and use his best techniques in battle. Wanping, hearing this, shouted at him that he, Xu Wuzhao, was already a corpse. He advised him to prepare well for death. The young master screamed so much that his family was concerned about his mental state. Qin Qingmo shook her head in annoyance and asked Wu Xiao, why is he always so arrogant? Meanwhile, Qin Shing's enterprising son-in-law walked to the middle of the arena and began calling out those who didn't like him to fight him. He provided such an excellent opportunity for anyone who was not afraid to enter the arena and measure their strength and martial arts skills with him. He also asked me to do it faster because he wants to go home and get some sleep. Not only his wife Qingmo, but also the entire audience of the competition was sure that the young master was arrogant after these words. How dare this puppy come out here? Isn't he afraid of being beaten to death? This guy is blindly confident in his victory. Besides, he's also a Taoist. Does he really think that he is the only Taoist here? He thinks he's too cool. He Wuxiao, standing in the central arena, felt the weight of hatred and rejection that was in the air. He took a deep breath, letting waves of sadness roll through his soul. Glancing at the crowd gathered in the stands, he took the floor decisively. He took a few steps forward, approaching the ring fence, and fixed his gaze on the faces of the audience, saying that if their feelings are so strong that they are ready to express them through hatred and condemnation, then why not try to solve it all in a different way? He turned to the crowd in the stands and asked them if they hated him so much, so why not just waste his time by going into the ring together against him? Even Cai Pingqing, looking at the bunch of people who only know how to fool around all day, thought that they didn't have an ounce of compassion. This is unfortunate. The old master whispered in his ear to go and destroy this upstart. He had a real chance to kill Wu Xiao. Pingqing replied that he understood everything and was ready to fight. He boldly walked into the middle of the arena when Wu Xiao suddenly asked him to stop. Pingqing took it as cowardice and asked the young man, does he still want to fight or is he already scared? However, Wu Xiao made a suggestion to him. If he lost, he would lose all of the Xu family's assets. But if Xu Wuxiao won, then Xi Pingqing would have to do something. Wu Xiao noted that for now, he won't say what exactly the loser will have to do. Pingqing joked angrily. Did he think he could resist even 10 one-armed men? The young man replied that it didn't matter if he had a chance or not. After all, it's all about justice. Are they trying to bully him with their Shai family's strength? Hearing this, Shi Guanping offered him 1,000 taels for the victory. It will be a prize for his fearlessness. Pingqing emphasized his master's generosity and asked Xu Wuxiao for his opinion. He replied that it was good, but let him not regret it later. The abacus clicked in his head. Funny, another 1,000 tael freebie. The audience wailed angrily. Just 1,000 taels make this guy so happy. Looks like he really deserves his reputation as a scum. Is it really only worth 1,000 shadows? This greedy fellow deserves such a bounty on his head. Finally, Shi Pingqing went on the attack and warned his opponent not to shit himself out of fear. Xu Wuxiao was also prepared for the fight. He advised his opponent to stop talking nonsense. All of this is absolutely unimportant. At this time, on the podium, Shai Guanping reminded Qin Shubo that under the competition conditions, seniors should not interfere in the fight of juniors. The audience was on the side of the Shi family representative. They believed that Shibo's son-in-law was extremely scared and couldn't even move. They admired Pingqing's incredible strength and skills. Only Wu Xiao's wife, Qin Qingmo, was genuinely worried about her husband, wishing him victory and believing in her. Meanwhile, Xu Wuxiao, after observing his opponent's every move, began to notice the subtleties in his attacks. All these weeks of training and analyzing combat styles have not been in vain. He has improved his reaction time and sense of timing, allowing him to catch moments when the opponent is in an awkward position. And so, in the arena, when Shai Pingqing once again delivered a crushing blow, Xu Wuxiao quickly leaned forward, turning his strength into the source of his energy. With one hand, he stopped the blow at the last moment. Pingqing felt his powerful punch turn into a static resistance, and his face expressed disbelief and surprise. Xu Wuxiao stared into his opponent's eyes, feeling his opponent's astonishment and realizing that strength didn't always depend on muscle. His eyes sparkled with determination and confidence. At the same time, the enterprising son-in-law of the Qin family decided that this fight needed a bit of drama if he wanted to get more money. Meanwhile, the superiority of the Qin family's representative began to be noticed in the stands. King Yun, who was in the stands, was surprised to think that the strength that Wu Xiao showed was one of the most impressive for the first stage. When had he ever leveled up like this? Xu Wuxiao made a remark towards Kai Guangping that it looked like his subordinate was becoming useless, which infuriated him completely, and he shouted at Pingqing that he simply had to win. Shi Pingqing was furious himself, infuriated that this youngster was completely underestimating him. With all his remaining strength, he charged at Wuxiao. Half an hour later, it became clear to even the most loyal fans of the Xi family that Xu Wuxiao was fighting on equal terms with Shi Pingqing. They were forced to admit that he was indeed very strong for his age. They remembered with annoyance that they had teased him for his weakness and hoped that he would not take revenge on them for it now. At this time in the arena, the young son-in-law of the Qin family thought that it was time to let his opponent get closer to end all this.